Welcome to the Zveda podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lorena.
We're a community for women by women. We're here to help each other rise to impact generations. Hey, ladies.
Hello, hello.
We're happy to be back. Welcome to the Zveda podcast. This is episode 22.
Woohoo! We're so excited.
We're on a roll.
Yes.
And the last several weeks, we've been talking about routine, right? We shared the model to achieve any goal that you have set out in front of you. And this was for us too.
Oh yeah, we've been working this model ourselves. Let's be real.
It was born out of us learning how to really approach meeting our goals and having this desire to birth something new. And so we're just so glad that we've gotten to share that with you. So we've talked about time with God.
Yep.
We've talked about setting your goal, setting that God goal, and we've talked about working the plan. And today what we want to talk about is creating accountability. So how do I structure my environment? What do I need to do? Who do I need to maybe bring in to my picture of my goal to create some accountability for myself?
Yeah, I think, Jamie, that's great. And we'll talk about a lot of those facets of accountability probably midway through this episode. But one of the things that we want to dive into just right here at the top of this episode on accountability is actually a model. I know we've been talking about our routine model as like our overarching one, right? But we have this idea called the clarity model. And this is something that one of our just friends and a coach that we know, Barbara Salisbury, she shared this with us earlier this year, and we just thought it was a great tool that we can equip each of you with. So we want to kind of talk through those 4 parts of this clarity model today. So as we're diving through this, picture like a shape of a triangle, right? Or like a little pyramid. And there will be 4 different tiers to this pyramid, and we're going to build from the bottom going up to the tippy top. So the first level 1, that foundation of the pyramid is, you can picture the word clarity filling that bottom layer. And you ask yourself the question, what do I need to know? And since this is the foundational level of the pyramid, right? Like we're trying to get clarity on, okay, if I'm, going after this God goal that I've set for myself, well, I need to be very clear on like all the ramifications of going after that goal. And so it's asking questions about the situation at hand. What are some risks that you might encounter? What are some costs that you might need to consider as part of going after this goal? Just getting a very clear picture so that okay, like once I, move forward to commit with this, I actually have a clear idea of what I'm stepping into.
Got it.
And the example that I have that Barbara actually shared with us, I feel like it's so good because we all understand dogs and have, a lot of people are dog or animal pet owners. So I wanted to kind of share this example through the whole clarity model. So it really helps this stick. So if you think about the example of like, okay, I'm considering whether I want to become a dog owner or not. Like currently right now, my fiance and I, like, we do not own a dog. We might one day. So at some point in time in the future, we might go through the clarity model. And the first step being clarity. Okay, so if we were to become dog owners, what is the cost of the dog, purchasing the dog, the cost of vet bills and food? How will it affect my schedule? Do I need to plan times to take the dog out on a walk multiple times a day, out to go to the restroom? Like getting an idea of how it's going to impact my life.
Right. So it's basically just getting that whole clear picture of what is it that I'm stepping into?
Yes, exactly. And then that second level, so level 2 is ownership. So first we have clarity, then ownership. And it's taking 2 things into account. It's taking leadership and responsibility into play. So leading in that decision that you're going to commit to. So you've got clarity on it. And then the next piece is then taking responsibility over that. So for example, choosing to become a dog owner, it's like, okay, well, like I'm going to lead in this, meaning like I'm going to become responsible for this being my dog. So all the things that I was, asking myself, like, what do I need to know about being a dog owner? Like, okay, how many times would the dog need to be taken out, you know, in the night or in the morning to use the restroom? What are the costs? Like, I'm going to be the one taking the dog out to use the restroom, you know, every morning. And I'm going to be the one paying for the vet bills. Like, it's taking responsibility over the situation. That is ownership. Mm-hmm. And then the third level of this little pyramid is filled with the word structure. And it's asking yourself the question, who or what do I need in place to hold me accountable? What structure, what setup do you need? And this will help you maintain that choice, maintain the responsibility of actually owning that decision and all the ramifications for that choice. And so this is where we'll talk, you know, different types of accountability here in a little bit. But one of those can literally be like putting a schedule in place, like using the calendar app on your phone or some other tools to be able to build out a schedule. Like, okay, so with, you know, this example of me being a dog owner, I'm going to set a reminder, you know, on my phone calendar, like every month to put some money aside for any unforeseen vet costs that might come up. Like if my dog gets sick. So I'm I'm putting that away, that money away so that I can, you know, hold myself accountable to be able to be prepared, to be responsible for my decision. That's structure, is you're putting those little reminders or that, or even like people like to help hold you accountable, those relationships in place to help you maintain responsibility. And then lastly, level 4. So the very top of that pyramid is the desired outcome. And so only after you take, you know, time to get very clear on the potential decision that you're going to make, then you take ownership of it, you make that decision and you become responsible for it. You put the structure in place to be able to actually achieve that desired outcome at the very end. And so me being a dog owner would be me, you know, like enjoying snuggles with my dog, like on the couch, and yay, I'm a dog owner. Like I really love just getting to have that relationship and that delight, and enjoying the journey with my dog owner or my dog as being a dog owner. So that's the clarity model.
Okay.
Jamie, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think as you were talking, I was just reminded that oftentimes we skip to that tippy top.
We do. We want the desired outcome,
and we start living there without thinking about everything that it's going to require. So the example of owning a dog is like, oh, they're so cute, and you know, they're just so cuddly, and it's going to be so fun, and
it's going to feel great the whole time, right?
All the time. But dogs require a lot of care. They require food and shots and upkeep and walking and, you know, especially a puppy, that's a whole other experience. You know, it's like having an infant. So you're up at odd hours and early morning and late at night and they're crying. And so I think this helps us make better decisions.
I think so too.
By really breaking it down into those core categories so we can actually think about, well, I think I want this. I think this should be my goal. But really being able to break it down like you outlined helps to make sure.
Yeah.
Like,
and
what are we committing to? Is this truly what I can commit to right now in the season of life I'm in?
That's so good, Jamie. And I think too, like, you know, we want to, again, equip you with this tool, this clarity model tool, so that you can make wise decisions for your life in whatever season that you're in. And honestly, it's okay if you are, you know, spending a lot of time like researching different things when you're about to make a big decision and you're asking a lot of questions. And if you decide, well, actually, you know what? Now that I have a better idea of what the commitment would be, I don't want to own that. That's okay. Like it could just be something that you put, you know, on the shelf for a later season. And you're like, hey, I'm going to revisit this maybe like when my finances look a little bit different, or maybe when my, you know, just relationships shift for a new season. Like it can totally be that. But I think, you know, just because if you go through this and you're like, man, like I feel defeated because I didn't get my desired outcome. Well, maybe there's a reason, and maybe that's healthy, like for the season that, you know, you're currently in and that I'm currently in. So
you can apply this to literally so many things in your life.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a big purchase, like, oh, you're thinking about buying a car.
Yeah.
We think of that shiny end goal. You're like, oh, the shiny new car smell. But
and
then
it makes
me
feel good thinking about that.
But just thinking about all the details of the cost and the expense, like, does it truly fit your budget right now? And what will it take away from what you're enjoying in your lifestyle if you make that choice?
Yeah.
you can use this for a new career. Like if you're considering a new position or a new job or a new company. Just so many vacation, is vacation, does it fit within your budget right now? Is it a good time? Just so many things. So it's such a great foundational model to just have in your back pocket, to use throughout life.
Yeah, I agree. It's been so helpful. And I think too, like, as we're talking about accountability during this episode, there are so many different examples, right? Like that third level of the clarity model, that structure level. Like, what are some specific pieces that we can pull in? I know I just mentioned earlier, like schedule is actually building out, regular recurring times for planning, for actually working on the tasks that will get you towards your goal quicker and towards completion. And then also time to evaluate, what are some wins that you've done and celebrate that along the way. And then maybe what are some things as you're evaluating, you're like, okay, I can do this better next time, or I can do this differently next time. I think schedule is one of those examples of accountability or structure that, that you can add in to keep yourself accountable. Jamie, do you have any thoughts related to schedule?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the example of a friend of mine. She actually was one of our guest interviews on Zveda podcast. Her name is Candace. And at the time she was considering making the choice to step into going back to school to get her PhD. And she made that decision. Well, based on that decision made, she has had to say no to a lot of things.
Because she's already said yes to
Because she said yes to that core goal. Like, this is my God goal. This is what I'm setting as my goal for the next 3 years. And because I am doing that, I'm not going to be able to say yes to all the fun things that are going to come across my plate. And she has just been a wizard. Like, she is just a master at saying no. And I've really admired that in her,
huge.
because we often just, we want to, at least I do,
Me too.
And so, you've made this commitment, and we'll invite her like, hey, we're having girls' dinner. We're going to have this celebration. And she's like, I would really love to join you guys, but I can't because I've got to complete this, horrific homework
or task related to her
so,
PhD.
just a lot of responsibility. And I think so many times we take on something, we commit to it, and then we still say yes when we really should be saying no to some of those key things, so we can stay focused on what we've committed to.
Yeah, that's a good reminder for me, because like I feel myself in different times, different seasons, that some seasons have greater choices and commitments that do require more of my time. And a lot of times I run myself down because I don't take the time to reevaluate where my time is actually going. And then I'm like, oh man, I have way too many commitments right now, or they're just too many big ones all at the same time. Yeah. So I think some other examples of accountability can be the relationships, the people that we're doing life with. I have family members of mine that I'm really close with, and then also just close friends that I share updates on things that I'm going after in my life, whether it's spiritual growth type things in my relationship with God, or it's related to things that we're building with Zveda, like, just even our working relationship and friendship, Jamie, like, we can have people that walk with us and helping hold us accountable. And I mean, even just earlier today, I was in a conversation with my fiance, and we were talking about Zveda stuff and just like kind of future planning and ideas. And I was like, man, I'm getting a little like frustrated right now, but it's because he was asking questions and uncovering like areas that need attention and that need work. And I'm like, oh, don't look at that, because I'm like, because like for me, I want to work on that, and it's a goal of mine, but me being a perfectionist, I'm like, it's not there yet. So, but it's good because we all need those trusted relationships that we can walk with.
It's so true.
And then lastly, I think workflow is another example of accountability. This is literally your approach to the work. And this is my kind of project manager, little nerdy side coming out here. But
bring it out.
I'll bring it out. There's different ways that you can approach working. And one of the ones that I want to share, because I feel like it's so applicable inside of our jobs, inside of our personal lives, wherever you want to use it, is it's this idea of the Kanban methodology. It's one, kind of agile approach. So being very nimble. And basically it's like if you have 3 columns, you title them to do, doing, and done. And you have basically you can just have a queue or a brain dump place of all the things that you need to do. So if this is even just related to chores around the house that you need to get done, and so they don't have to be floating around in your brain and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to remember that. Don't forget that. Remember that.
So true.
Just write it down in this to-do column. And then in the doing column, which is stuff that you're actively doing, the goal is to have only one task or one of those things in that doing column at a time, because humanly possible, right? We can only really be doing one thing at a time, even though we as women are really great at multitasking.
We think we are.
Yeah. And then to move it to the done column when you finished it. And that's a very simple, but it is an example of a workflow. So thinking of how you can actually approach the work, not just having your schedule and the time to work, but how do you actually keep things organized so that you're not using a lot of brain energy and space to remember to do things, but having a good workflow to support you. So that's another example of accountability or structure as we're working on our God goals together. So
yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. But so as far as, Jamie, is there any other thoughts that you have or?
No, I don't think so. I was just going to say, I'm going to start doing what you just outlined
because
Kanban?
I'm
because so often it's all in my head.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's just some methods that just don't work for me.
Uh-huh.
Just putting it down, I use a calendar and all of those core things, but I'm like, oh, that's a really good way to think about that.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. And it's, it's used in a lot of different industries. I know it's really common in the tech and development industry, especially here in Austin, but there's so many organizations that do it. I know a lot of friends who just manage their personal, to-dos that way. And it's so helpful. So hopefully y'all find it helpful too, and would love to, hear y'all post in the comments hey, I'm using Kanban. This is how it, changed my life. But yeah, so we're here to help and walk with you as you rise. So on that note, just to wrap up this episode, having an action step here is a couple things. So thinking about your plan and the goal that you want to achieve, do you have the right structures in place to help you get there? So depending on the answer to that question, what is one piece from this episode today that you'd like to work into your plan as you work on your God goal? Is there a part of your structure that needs to be built?
That sounds like a great challenge question.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today, ladies, and stay tuned. We'll be sharing our answers to that question to help guide you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Zveda podcast. Keep your questions coming so we can rise together. Visit Zveda.com to talk to us and join our community. That's Zveda.com. We'll see you next week.